All right, welcome everyone. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining me today for this highly strategic explainer. We are cracking open a deep dossier that literally just leaked today, June 26, 2026. Now, if you've been keeping even half an eye on the tech world lately, you already know the conversation has totally shifted. We are not sitting around talking about hardware firewalls or, traditional antivirus software anymore. Why? Because the stark, kind of terrifying reality we're facing today is that the golden reaction time in cybersecurity, that little window where a human being could spot an attack and actually do something about it, has hit absolute zero. Let's dive in. So here is our game plan for today's explainer. We'll be walking through the zero-margin era, the AI offensive sword, the microsecond defense shield, the legacy versus AI paradigm, the Centaur model, and finally, we'll wrap up with the economics of cyberwar. All right, jumping right into section 1, the zero-margin era. For years, cybersecurity was basically just a numbers game, right? A game of probabilities and risk management. You built a wall, you hoped your defenses stopped maybe 80% of the threats, and your incident response team just kind of scrambled to clean up the other 20%. Well, you can take that entire playbook and throw it out the window. And to understand why, we really need to talk about the dual-use paradox. Because unlike old single-target cyber weapons, think back to Stuxnet, AI is a foundational, completely neutral technology. And here's the paradox we're living in. The exact same massive large language models that tech giants are using to identify bugs and write pristine, secure code, well, they're being effortlessly downloaded, rewritten, and fine-tuned by ransomware syndicates for purely malicious reasons. The sword and the shield are literally forged from the exact same steel. And man, things went off the rails incredibly fast. Just think about this 3-year evolution. Back in 2024, we saw the birth of Fraud GPT, which caused a staggering 500% increase in attacks by total novices, what we call script kiddies. Because suddenly you didn't need to know how to code, you just needed to know how to write a prompt. Then by 2025, defensive platforms upgraded to SOAR 2.0. These things were analyzing billions of logs in seconds, which unfortunately led to massive layoffs for entry-level security staff. And that brings us right here to 2026. The dawn of all-out agentic wars. AI is now conducting chained, multi-stage attacks completely autonomously. Human reaction time isn't just slow anymore, it's completely obsolete. Which brings us to Section 2, the AI offensive sword. Okay, it is officially time to completely shatter that old Hollywood cliché of the hacker in a dark hoodie, furiously typing away at a keyboard. Today's attackers are automated agents, and I want you to really think about this number. 3 seconds. That is the blistering, almost incomprehensible speed at which AI-based malware now gains root access the moment it touches a network. 3 seconds. In the past, sure, you could withstand a few attacks slipping through your firewall because you had time to react. Today, you're getting hit with tens of thousands of smart attacks every single second. If even one of them gets a toe in the door, it takes over your entire system before you can even take a breath. And honestly, if you think the technical side is scary, the social engineering side is equally alarming. We are seeing a 92% success rate for AI-personalized spear phishing campaigns against senior executives. 92%. And look, we aren't talking about those old spam emails with bad grammar and spelling mistakes. These AI agents are reading your past tweets, they're analyzing your entire LinkedIn profile, they're scanning your leaked emails from old data breaches, they build a flawless psychological profile on you, and then they send a message using the exact tone, pacing, and catchphrases of your CEO. It is a devastatingly effective psychological tactic, and it's exactly why human error on the offensive front has basically dropped to zero. So the crucial takeaway here is that all of this has spawned a highly mechanized dark economy. Modern malware, like Fraud GPT v4, it isn't just raw code anymore. It's literally rented out as malware as a service, complete with 24/7 cloud-based customer support. Seriously. And the malware itself is polymorphic. That means it acts like a biological virus, mutating its own binary structure every 3 seconds just to evade traditional antivirus software. When you add in the fact that AI is now out there reverse engineering 60% of all security codes, you quickly realize that traditional static barriers are completely useless. So what do we do about it? Let's flip the script and look at Section 3, the microsecond defense shield. If an organization is still relying on annual or even quarterly penetration testing in 2026, they are essentially participating in a really bitter joke. An annual audit is completely worthless when your perimeter is being scanned for zero-day bugs every single second of the day. So the new gold standard to combat this is continuous asset monitoring. Organizations are now using unsupervised machine learning to monitor absolutely everything 24/7. This AI establishes a behavioral baseline for the whole company. It knows exactly when you usually log in, where you log in from, what files you typically touch. So if there's even a micro deviation, let's say you try to download an unusual volume of classified data from an unknown IP address at 3 a.m., the AI doesn't send an email to an IT admin and wait for a response. No way. It instantly revokes your keys and quarantines the device. But to actually pull this off, the fundamental architecture of our networks had to change. Cloud servers are fantastic for a lot of things, but for next-gen defense, they are way too slow. The latency, the time it takes to send data up to the cloud, analyze it, and send a decision back, gives attackers exactly the window they need to get in. So modern defense now relies entirely on edge AI and dedicated neural processing units, or NPUs, installed physically right there at the edge of the network. This localized on-site processing slashes the reaction time down to 4 milliseconds. 4 milliseconds. That is a speed the human brain physically cannot even perceive. Moving right along to Section 4, Legacy versus the AI Paradigm. Let's just put these two worlds side by side to really drive this home. Look at the discovery speed alone. What used to take days, sometimes weeks, of a human sifting through endless server logs now happens autonomously in fractions of a second. Incident response has completely shifted from this slow, manual, committee-based approval process to an instant algorithmic quarantine. The lesson here is simple and honestly a bit brutal. You simply cannot defend at a walking pace when your attackers are moving at the speed of light.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 5, the Centaur model.
Now, handing the absolute keys to the kingdom over to an algorithm makes executives very, very nervous. And rightfully so. I mean, a single false positive could mistakenly shut down a hospital's entire network in the middle of a surgery. So the consensus we've reached is that we can neither stop the AI, nor can we fully blindly rely on it alone. And there's this really sticky chess analogy that perfectly captures the current strategy. It's the idea that a human and a computer working together as a team is actually stronger than either one working independently. In the modern command room, humans and machines are teaming up to create the ultimate strategic advantage. Let's break down exactly how this human-machine teaming actually plays out in the real world. It happens in 3 steps. Step 1. The machine handles the speed. It detects an anomaly and blocks the suspicious IP in 4 milliseconds. Step 2. The machine then generates a clean, natural language report explaining the threat and hands it over to the human analyst. Step 3. The human analyst reviews the context. Humans understand the weird, complex business nuances that an AI might completely miss. The human then makes the call. They either authorize a broader defensive strike, or they correct the algorithm if it turned out to be a false alarm. This specific workflow elevates a junior analyst into a true cyber commander, managing an entire army of intelligent virtual troops. All right, let's wrap things up with Section 6, the economics of cyber war. As brilliant and effective as the Centaur model is, building this impenetrable defense is definitely not cheap. We are talking about a staggering average yearly cost of $2.5 million just to run an AI defense system. Because setting up an AI security operations center means you have to rent incredibly powerful, expensive GPUs, you have to buy pristine training data, and you have to hire highly specialized, highly paid data scientists. Organizations across the board are staring down in a massive 70% increase in their security budgets just to transition into this new AI paradigm. And this reality creates a massive, truly dangerous economic chasm. Because hackers, well, they're smart. Why on earth would an automated offensive agent waste hours trying to brute force crack an impenetrable, multi-million-dollar banking algorithm? It won't. Instead, it's going to pivot. It's going to find the path of least resistance and target the bank's small accounting contractor in the supply chain, the vulnerable small to medium business that simply cannot afford these massive AI upgrades. And that brings us to the end of today's explainer, and frankly to a pretty provocative, memorable thought from the dossier itself. Are we the real algorithm? Because as automated as this whole battlefield has become, it is still human genius and human goals directing both the deadliest malware and the strongest defenses. Artificial intelligence is really just multiplying our human capabilities by the millions. So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. In a world where the margin for error is literally zero and machines are making microsecond decisions on our behalf, how do we ensure the goals we code into them actually protect our future? Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. Stay curious, stay secure, and I'll catch you next time.